Two balls and a strike to count on Taylor. Reyes fires, swinging a drive, deep left field. It's his way back. Walk the ball. Chris Taylor.
What's up, everyone? Welcome into DodgerHeads Live, presented by DodgerBlue.com, part of the Blue Wire Podcast Network. My name is Jeff Spiegel, joined tonight by Blake Williams, shuffling some things around with some moving schedules. Blake, happy off day to you. Happy Thursday. Did you enjoy a 24-hour break from the Dodgers?
Yeah, it's been good. I've been a little under the weather, so I got to kind of grind through this one a bit here. But it was nice to get the day of rest because kind of needed it. So,
well, and I mean, I have to start. This is almost a wellness check for you. James Paxton announces he's retiring at the end of the season. Corey Seager out for the season. So I have to ask, on an emotional scale between Will Smith during an interview and Anthony Bonda right after having a terrible appearance, where would you say you are with the Paxton and Seager news?
I'm probably closer to Will Smith during an interview.
Wow.
Very at a loss for words, some might say. Yeah, I mean, Corey Seager will be back at least, but it was good. I got to see the big maple put on Dodger Blue, and yeah, sad he's not going to get to pitch again this year, probably because he's injured and the Red Sox are not making the playoffs.
Have we been scouring eBay for a Paxton Dodgers jersey yet? Like, are we giving that 6 months to see if prices drop? Where are we at?
Usually they have the game use stuff in the club level store there. So I'm sure a Paxton one's going to make it there. So probably going to wait for that.
Are we sure is Paxton at the level that they put that in the store? Or does that find itself just straight onto the black market?
I mean, they have like some of the most random players you'll ever see there, like spring training guys. They put everyone there.
Okay. All right. So we're looking for a Paxton jersey to hang up by somewhere on that wall behind you.
We'll look into it. If it comes across, I might have to pull the trigger.
Okay. Well, hey, we got a fun show planned for you tonight. It's going to be a ton of questions and answers. Obviously, there's so much Dodgers content coming out on this channel that we wanted to leave some space for Q&A to answer the questions you've got. But before we get into those questions, let's talk about kind of where the Dodgers are at and maybe ask the question of how important playoff seeding is for the Dodgers. As we stand here today, Blake, the Dodgers have a 5-game lead over the Arizona Diamondbacks in the division. The Diamondbacks have a 2-game lead over the wild card. Padres half game behind them, so 5.5 behind the Dodgers, 1.5 up in the wild card. The Dodgers also currently 1 game behind the Phillies. So let's talk division. Dodgers are 87 and 59. They have a 5-game lead with 16 games back. Is there any level of concern for you, Blake, about the Dodgers' ability to win this division? Given maybe, they lose 2 out of 3 to the Cubs, of course, but 5 games up with 16 games back. Are we safe?
I think the division race is about over as much as it can be before actually clinching it. The Dodgers are just too talented. They lost 2 or 3 to the Cubs, but overall they're playing quality baseball right now. It's going to be tough for any team to catch up to them. It would probably take a miracle.
Yeah, and I mean, the Dodgers 5-5 in their last 10. More than the Dodgers playing good baseball, it feels like the Diamondbacks and Padres have finally come back down to earth. Diamondbacks only 6-4 in their last 10, although they've won 3 in a row. The Padres 5-5, having lost their last game. So I'm with you. I feel like the NL West, it got a little dicey there for a little bit. I was starting to look at some odds for Diamondbacks and Padres. We were discussing some NL West odds. Those have been put to bed. Anthony, who said that this division was going to be won comfortably, may be looking like the smart one here. I mentioned the Phillies 1 game ahead of the Dodgers for the number 1 seed. The reason that matters, of course, is home field advantage throughout. But maybe the more significant reason here, Blake, is as it currently stands, the Dodgers in the number 2 spot would be awaiting the winner of the Brewers and the Mets on that side of the postseason bracket, rather than the Phillies, who would be awaiting the winner of the Diamondbacks and Padres. Before we get into like messing around with seeding, is it fair to say that you would rather play the winner of the Brewers and Mets than the Diamondbacks and Padres?
Yes, but like my same rant I give every time, it's just going to come down to the Dodgers playing well in the postseason. They're the most talented team. And as we've seen in past postseasons, it doesn't really matter who you're playing. Any team can get hot at the right time. You can have all the right things going for you and still end up losing. So, like, yes, the Mets or Brewers would be preferable, especially not being in division opponents, because that always makes it a little tougher. But really, if the Dodgers just play the way they're capable of, I don't think any team's really going to have a chance to beat them.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. We've said all along, if the Dodgers, depending on who knows what their pitching. I'm done guessing what the pitching staff is going to look like in 2 or 3 weeks, because any guy you feel good about immediately feels like he goes down. I am with you on that, but do you think this sounds stupid, but I'm going to ask the question anyways, and you can tell me it's stupid, and I may not disagree with you. Do you think the Dodgers care at all what seed they get? Like, do you think there's any part of Andrew Friedman and his guys upstairs looking at it and saying, man, let's say they're still 5 games up with 3 games to go and they're a game back of the Phillies. Like, is there any chance the Dodgers just decide, hey, we're going to, put some guys in there that maybe we wouldn't put in there on a day when we needed to get the win because we'd rather put ourselves on a certain side of the bracket? Or do you honestly believe that behind closed doors, it's we're good enough, worry about us, go into the postseason feeling good, we'll play whoever's in front of us?
I don't think they'd tank any games to set up themselves with the seeding. I think Andrew Friedman knows this Dodger team is very talented, and whoever they play, they're going to be more talented than them. And really, it's just going to come down to the players performing on the field. That's what it always comes down to. I know a lot of people are going to bring up Dave Roberts managing and all that, but Dave isn't the one up there going 0 for 13 in the playoffs like their top of the lineup did last year. So really, if the players perform, that's all that really matters. I don't think they're going to focus too much on seeding and trying to set themselves up on which side of the bracket. Really, it's going to come down to the Dodgers are going to try and win as many games as they can. It might be on the back of their mind, like the seeding and who they might end up playing, but I don't think it's going to change what they end up doing. Maybe if they were on the fence about giving Freddie Freeman an off day, it's it wouldn't be the worst thing. So maybe take the day off, but I don't think they're putting out Kike at first and taking Ohtani out and Will Smith out and everyone just so they can try and set up their seating.
Well, wouldn't they actually keep Austin Barnes in the lineup if they were going for their...
Wow, some Will Smith slander.
That's what I've been told. Here? That's what I've been told. I just wanted to double check there.
I think we need to clip this and just have that forever.
It's fair. There's lots of clips of me saying stupid things and taken out of context. But I'm with you. I mean, the reason I say that question is kind of silly is because you only have 28 guys on the roster. You've only got 14 position players and 14 pitchers. You can't just send guys up and send guys down and put guys on the IL. So you need to get through those games from a pitching perspective. And even if you wanted to put all of your, 5 worst players into the game, you've still got to have 4 starters out there. So there's very limited things they can do, not to mention Shohei Ohtani, who's going to be probably in the midst of a 50-50 chase, who's going to want to be going after the 50-50, by the way.
Are we sure he's not going to get there before those decisions come?
Well, fair. You tell me. You tell me. I've been pro. He's going to get there. So are you feeling more confident? Obviously, the trajectory continues to increase.
I think he gets 51 homers and 54 stolen bases.
Yeah. The steals, to me, I mean, the problem is whether or not he's going to get enough singles, basically, to steal bases if you're swinging for the fences every time. But I'm with you. The steals, it feels like anytime he's on base, those are going to be available. The last question I wanted to ask on this, if you could choose, if you could wave a wand and get one of these 2 things, would you rather have home field advantage throughout the National League side of the postseason, or be in a position to play the winner of the Brewers or the Mets? Which of those 2 do you think will have more of a impact on their odds of achieving their goals?
I think the logical side says the home field advantage part. If they had to go to Philly and play, that's a tough crowd there. But I think the number 2 seed might be more beneficial to them, just not having to play an in-division opponent to start. Yeah, for me, I feel like if the Dodgers get past the division series, they're going to be in a really good spot moving forward, regardless of who they play. And I'm not entirely sure a 1-game difference, whether you're home or away, is going to make a huge change in their outcome there.
Yeah.
So I'm probably closer to 55-45 on that than leaning heavily toward either side. But just playing in-division opponents in the playoffs is always tough, no matter what sport it is. They know you better. They step up their game more. So I just think the number 2 seed is a little weaker side there.
Yeah, and it's worth pointing out if the Phillies were to lose in the divisional round, then the Dodgers could end up theoretically with home field advantage in every series. Look, I have been clearly on record. I just don't want to play the Padres at any point in the postseason, and I've joked about this before. I choose my playoff opponent first by odds I'm going to lose to them, and second by what will hurt the most. And what would hurt the most of anything would be losing to the Padres at any point in the postseason. I stand by losing to the Diamondbacks would suck, but it would not suck any more than losing to the Phillies or losing to the Brewers or losing to the Mets or whoever. It's only the Padres in this current playoff picture that would personally hurt me, Blake. I see you laughing. Is there a team in there? I mean, losing to the Mets because they're pitiful? Like, fair enough.
Well, my dad's a Met fan, so if the Dodgers lost to the Mets, I would probably not hear the end of that for a year. So I think that is the number one team they can't lose to on my end. So yeah, like
I'm just we've identified a National League team that you really don't like, Blake. I like this. This is the first one.
I'm indifferent to the Mets. Like, I don't dislike them or anything. I just don't want my dad to have the bragging rights. And I know he's watching and he'll probably comment here or something. So yeah, Severian, put some Mets slander in the chat.
Yeah, there you go. I'm with you. I mean, it'll be interesting. Of course, there are so many factors at play. There are 16 games to go. We're talking about a 1-game difference between the Dodgers and the Phillies. And the last piece of this, Blake, is just a matter of how much does the run into the postseason really matter? Because the one thing people have said, oh, the Dodgers haven't had to keep their foot on the pedal, and maybe that's the reason they've stumbled in the divisional series plus the bye and that kind of thing. So if you're mixing in this sort of angling for certain seeds in the mix of all that, that feels like it would be a problem.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's still just always going to come down to playing their best in the postseason. Like, we can talk all about the matchups we want. I think all of us were happy last year when they played the Diamondbacks. Like, I think Matt said they were going to sweep.
Matt predicted a sweep famously.
I think I was the highest on them, and I think I said Dodgers in 4, like the highest on the Diamondbacks. So, like, the Diamondbacks ended up sweeping. It was a pitiful series for the Dodgers. Like, you just never know with these things. So we can talk about it all we want. We can say what the best matchup is. We can line up everything perfectly, but at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter unless they perform.
Yeah, the highest priority to me is for this team to be confident and to be rolling by the time they get to the postseason. Like that matters more than who their potential NLDS opponent would be, whether they would potentially have home field advantage in the NLCS. Like, I just want this team not to be scuffling in to the postseason. I want them to be confident. I want them to be on a winning streak. I want guys like Mookie Betts and Shohei Ohtani, Freddie Freeman, even Will Smith, Gavin Lux, these guys to be stepping into the box, looking backwards a week, 2 weeks and saying, all right, I found my groove. I'm hitting the ball hard. We're making solid contact. Pitchers that are finding success. That to me is the biggest, most important thing over the next 16 games.
My counter to that would still be like, it doesn't matter, because we saw the Diamondbacks last year. They were trying to play their way out of the playoffs. They lost like every game in September, and then they still just ran through the playoffs and went to the World Series. Like, there's just so much randomness that goes into the playoffs. Nothing from the regular season ever comes back to like correlate to the playoffs. So like, I think the number one thing for the Dodgers is just to be healthy and go from there. Like, if they lose the last 5 games heading into the playoffs, but they're healthy, I'll feel more confident about them than if they win the last 5 and they have Glasnow still injured or something like that.
Yeah. I love Nihilist Blake is here, and none of it matters. None of it matters. It doesn't matter if guys are good. It doesn't matter if guys are bad. It doesn't matter if they're the 1 seed or the 2 seed or this side of the bracket or that's none of it matters. It's all meaningless.
I mean, that's what we see every year in the postseason until it changes. Like, hard to go against that trend.
Totally, because even the health point, right? Like, we've seen a healthy Dodgers team make it into the postseason, and like, none of it matters. I mean, I keep coming back to the Diamondbacks last year. Like, name me like 5 dudes who started for the Diamondbacks last year. People in the chat, like their number 3 pitcher was Brandon Pfaadt, who had like a 7 ERA in the regular season. Like, it is the ultimate. Though. What's that?
He was a good prospect, though. Got to give him some credit. The talent was there.
He would be if Bobby Miller figured it out in the midst of the NLDS. That would be the Brandon Pfaadt story, except we have more evidence to believe Bobby Miller could have figured it out.
I agree with that a lot. I think that's a good comparison, but I think Bobby Miller has better stuff. So, like, the Dodgers are a good pitching factory. I don't think it should totally surprise anyone. Like, I'm not betting on it. I'm not counting on it. I don't think it's going to happen, but like, Bobby is the type of pitcher who can play up in the postseason.
I like it. Blake. Talk yourself into it. We'll clip Austin Barnes and we'll clip you not giving up on Bobby Miller yet. I like this.
I'm not giving up on him in the long term. He should still not be on the postseason roster this year, but like, depending on the health, might be a necessity. So I don't know. Maybe it's just some coping here.
Yeah. Hey, it's fine. It's fine. We all need a little bit of coping. You know, we've all got takes that we regret that we can't quite let die. I know you were high on Bobby Miller coming into the season, and it hasn't played out. But hey, look, if anybody respects just holding out hope for a guy, Blake, you know you've got a captive audience in me.
Yeah, but to be fair, was there anyone who wasn't high on Bobby Miller coming into the season?
Yeah, I mean, I would say it's varying degrees. Like, I would say I was more skeptical, but to say I was skeptical is not to take a victory lap over the fact that he's been this bad. Because I thought he would be fine. I did not think he would be a Cy Young candidate. I definitely did not think he'd be like the worst starting pitcher that the Dodgers have put out there at any point this season, which might be the case. I mean, like, there's not a whole lot of guys below him on the starting pitching depth chart of the 40-man roster, in my opinion.
On their 40-man, no. I'm trying to think if there's any like random guys that they brought up for a start or two this year, and then DFA'd
would you rather have Rich Hill or Bobby Miller if you needed a win tomorrow?
I'm still taking Bobby.
Okay, good. Yeah, me too. I mean, Rich Hill was what, in the majors for how many starts?
2 or 3, I think.
Yeah, it's not great. I mean, Kasparius or Bobby Miller?
That's tough because we haven't seen much of Kasparius, and it's only been like 1 or 2 innings that he's thrown, but I might end up taking him just because he is more unknown.
Are you ready for this one? I got to give my brother a shout out for this one. Are you ready? I don't know if you're ready for this question, Blake. I'm just preparing you.
Robleski?
Nope. We're going to take a slight left-hand turn here. You need a starting pitcher. Your life depends on it tomorrow. And you have these 2 options: Bobby Miller or Michael Grove. Who are you starting?
Bobby.
Wow. So you're that down on Michael Grove.
Grove, I think he can be effective in his 1 inning role, but when he tries to go like 2 or 3, he starts facing lefties. Like, Bobby has the tools to be effective. We see the changeup is still really good. Like, there's the chance his command is just randomly good one day, and command is his main issue right now. So, like, I'm taking the upside when both the options have a low floor.
The chat is almost unanimous on Michael Grove right now, by the way, which is a shocker to me. My brother is in the camp of poking fun at Michael Grove every time that he struggles, and he was the one who said, you know what, I would take Grove over Bobby Miller. So it's interesting.
If you're going with Grove, you're essentially going with a bullpen game, though, so I guess that benefits that argument there. But if we're talking about like one of them has to go 5 innings.
Doesn't Bobby Miller start bullpen games too? Maybe not intentionally. Maybe it's not the plan.
He's going 5 or 6 innings every time out. It's just also 6 runs.
Yeah, fair. I mean, come on. Michael Grove, like, I understand all those things. Like, Michael Grove, his ERA is under 5. It starts with a 4 at least.
Yeah, but he's been a reliever. Like, 1 inning, he's set up to succeed facing righties more often. Like, if this was...
Nobody has ever said Michael Grove was set up to succeed, by the way. This is a first, I think, in the history of Dodgers.
I mean, more so than Bobby Miller, in the sense of he's not facing as many lefties, or that's Grove's biggest weakness. Like, if we're playing the Padres, I think maybe you could talk me into Grove because they're a very right-handed lineup. But a team that's much more left-handed, I don't think I'm even considering Grove as an option.
Fair. Look, we're neither of these are options. I think we could just land the plane and agree on that there. So, hey, everybody, we appreciate you joining us. Over 1,200 people here on a Thursday. Thank you so much. We're going to get to a bunch of questions here. So if you want to start populating the chat with all caps questions at the front of it, we would greatly appreciate it. We've got a super chat here from Jeffrey Ueda. Bobby's main issue is his mental toughness. Do you agree with this statement here, Blake?
To a sense, I think it's affecting him a lot. I also think his command is still probably his biggest issue there. But I think the mental side of the game is a huge thing for Bobby Miller. It is something he's talked about in the past. It's something Dave Roberts has talked about in the past. And it seems like he started the game yesterday getting 2 quick outs, and then things started to go south, and then they fell apart real quick. And that's been pretty common trend for him. Like, he's good until he isn't, and usually that good is pretty short-lived. So I do think he needs to control his emotions more and try and stay composed on the mound. But going back to the command of his fastball, I still think that's probably the biggest issue for him.
Yeah, and I would actually take the same command. I think is his biggest issue, but it's actually not his fastball I'm worried about. Something needs to be threatening the strike zone other than his fastball. And I think that was the quotes that we saw from Dave Roberts last night. He was basically like, the curveball wasn't competitive. Like, it's like every time it's getting thrown, okay, fine, sit. Like, just wait for 100 miles an hour and sit back on it. And so I don't think it's mental toughness. I think if you choose to believe that he has a knee injury of some sort, it would be hard for me to question his mental toughness. The fact that he's still going out there every single time, he's going to get one more start. But for me, it's just purely command, and more specifically, I would say, Blake, of the secondary stuff.
I think there is some to that. His fastball is very straight, though. It doesn't have much vertical or horizontal movement on it. Yeah. So it's very easy for hitters to hit when it's not located properly. So, like, he might find the strike zone, but a lot of times it's right down the middle or in a terrible location. So I still think the fastball command has a ton to do with it. His changeup has been really good, and I think that is what has helped keep him somewhat effective on, because he'll go into stretches where, like, he won't allow a hit through 10 batters faced, and he'll strike out 8 guys. But it's the other portions of it where he gives up 3 runs in an inning, he gives up 5 runs in an inning, and I think a lot of that is just related to the fastball command.
Yeah, fair. Ella Shiva wants to know, wrong one. Alleluia wants to know, are you guys selling whatever new copium that Blake is inhaling?
I'm not hyping up Bobby Miller. I'm saying,
it sounded like a little bit of hyping up Bobby Miller.
If we're comparing Bobby Miller to Michael Grove, like, I'm taking the upside. That's all there is to it. I don't think there's like a low ceiling for either of them or a high floor. Like, you're getting low ceiling, low floor essentially for both of them, but Bobby Miller's ceiling is a bit higher.
It felt like even before I brought up Grove, there was still a little bit of optimism for Bobby Miller. And again, look, you're talking to Mr. Optimism, Blake. You don't have to defend yourself to me. I see what the question is asking here.
I think my qualifiers for the optimism were I don't expect it to happen. I don't think it will happen, and I'm not betting on it to happen, but it could possibly maybe happen. So if you want to take that as super optimistic, sure.
Would you describe yourself as hopeful, much like Dave Roberts with every Dodgers injury, or not hopeful?
I would say not hopeful.
Yeah, me neither. We've got another question here on the Bobby Miller front. Richard wants to know, should the Dodgers just shut Bobby down?
Probably. I think that would be beneficial for everyone, but they don't really have other options at this point until Glasnow and potentially Kershaw and maybe even Stone come back. Like, they're pretty limited here, and they have to kind of work with what they have.
Because the latest report we have is that Bobby Miller is going to, I believe Dave Roberts basically said he's going to make one more start and then we will see. And reading between the lines, the assumption, which you just alluded to, is that Glasnow would be ready basically 10 days from now to not skip every rehab appearance, pitch in a simulated game in 4 or 5 days, and then throw 3 or 4 innings at the major league level. I mean, is that like kind of the A+B=C scenario here?
That's what it's leading to, and I think that kind of shows how desperate the Dodgers are for starting pitching and to get Bobby out of their rotation, because for like 2 or 3 weeks there, it was Roberts kept saying Glasnow needs a rehab assignment, and then Bobby goes and has another blow-up outing, and it's, yeah, you know what, maybe Glasnow might not need that rehab after all. So, yeah, I mean, they're just kind of limited on options right now.
Yeah. You mentioned Stone and Kershaw. Like, Stone is a 0% confidence level that we see him. I mean, like, Tony Gonsolin is higher on the confidence level than Gavin Stone. From shoulder inflammation, he's not pitching for 10 days. It feels like a death sentence, not long term, but for 2024. Like, are you holding out any hope that Gavin Stone is available at some point this postseason?
Not really. I think they're going to do like what they did with Muncy in 2021, where it's like, if we make it to the next round, he's an option. And then they make it to the next round and it's oh, actually, no, he's not an option. But if the next round comes around, maybe that's the time, and then they make it to the next round. That's, oh no, actually, he's not an option. So
yeah,
I feel like they're just going to kind of play that game.
Where are you at with Kershaw?
Also not very confident.
Okay.
Like he's still dealing with the bone spur in his foot, and I don't know why that's something they didn't address, like while he was having his shoulder surgery, especially since they said it's been something bothering him for a few years. I don't get it.
Well, that's assuming Dave Roberts is telling us the truth about an injury.
Yeah, I mean, Kershaw wouldn't ever talk about it. We know that, and I don't think Dave would have went out there and like said before that he was dealing with it. Sounds kind of like an excuse on that end. So I believe it. I just think it's very confusing.
Can we talk real quick? Because I've mentioned this before. If you've read Andy McCullough's book on Clayton Kershaw, one of the most fascinating pieces in there is some information, some details, some insight, maybe is the best word, into Clayton Kershaw's relationship with Dave Roberts. And let's just say that Dave Roberts and Clayton Kershaw are not hanging out on weekends. It does not sound like in the offseason. And much of it, Blake, seems to stem from Clayton Kershaw's irritation with the information about him that Dave Roberts has chosen in the past to share, specifically about injuries. And now twice since Kershaw has been hurt, Dave Roberts has let slip, maybe if you want to assume the best, or given himself an out if you want to assume the worst, when he said, this is something he's been dealing with for a long time. That was surprising to a lot of people. And then he said, oh, well, and there's like a ligament or a tendon or something, and it's which is very different than the bone spurs thing. So twice Dave Roberts has given details that I am fairly confident Clayton Kershaw is not going to be pleased got out there. Like, I would say there's a world in which Dave Roberts is saying these things to give himself protection from having to start Clayton Kershaw in a game that maybe he doesn't want to start Clayton Kershaw in. Or is this just Dave Roberts saying whatever comes to mind and not really thinking about the consequences?
I think it's more Dave just kind of saying things, whatever comes to mind. I do think he's pretty thoughtful about what he says generally, and I know that might seem like a shock to a lot of fans, but I have reasons to believe this that can't technically be shared on here. I don't think like Dave is intentionally setting up an out or anything like that. I just think it's more like Dave is trying to be somewhat honest with the media, especially when there's been a lot of criticism about his injury reports this year and everything. And like medical things are disclosed all the time with baseball teams. Like every sport, players sign a contract where like teams can disclose the injuries because it makes it fair for the other teams to know these things too. And I just think like it's more Dave, maybe not treating Kershaw like he's different than the rest of the team. Yeah. I mean, I thought the reason they just weren't hanging out in the off seasons because Dave's in San Diego and Kershaw's in Texas.
Is that what you thought?
Yeah.
Yeah. You would not think that if you read Andy McCullough's book. That was interesting. And again, we'll see how it plays out. I think the difference between Stone and Kershaw is the Dodgers are long-term invested in one of those guys being able to pitch next year and beyond, and they are not necessarily long-term invested in the other. And so I could see a world where Clayton Kershaw with, a week left in the season says, hey, I'm ready. I want to give this thing a shot. And they're kind of like, all right, like, let's see what happens. We'll give you a shot in the regular season. And if you can prove to us that you're competent, then we'll have a conversation. And if you go out there and get shelled or command and velocity are all over the place because you can't push off, then we've kind of got our out. Whereas they're not going to risk anything with Gavin Stone, a guy who, could be a serious pillar of this rotation moving forward. So let's get to some more of these questions. Good stuff in there. We appreciate it. Speaking of injured pitchers, Ella Shiva wants to know, do you predict Gonsolin will pitch at all in the postseason? He, of course, just made his first rehab appearance with Oklahoma City. And I was exchanging messages with someone on Twitter. Like, there's a world, if you do the math of every 5 or 6 days, where Gonsolin's up to 4 or 5-ish innings by the end of the regular season.
Yeah, I'm still going to bet against it, but I'm not totally ruling it out. I think if they make it to the NLCS or something like that, maybe it's more of a possibility just with timeline wise and all that. But I still hesitate to the idea that they'd bring a pitcher back off the injured list that he's missed the entire year in the NLCS. Like, that's a kind of a tough world to believe.
Yeah.
So I think it's more likely than it has been at any point this year, but I'm still betting against it.
Yeah. Yeah. It sounds like you've got him as more likely than both Kershaw and Stone, though, to be on a postseason roster.
I think more likely than Stone, yes. I think Kershaw's still a toss-up kind of thing. I'd probably put Kershaw at like 40%, maybe 35%, Gonsolin at 20 something percent, and Stone at 5 or 10%.
Yeah, fair. Jeff wants to know if you can extend only one of Teoscar or Flaherty, who would you choose? I feel Flaherty makes more sense with multiple outfield prospects in the system. We have another question that was like, could the Dodgers extend both? The Dodgers could extend both and sign Juan Soto if they wanted to. But this is an interesting one. If you had to choose between these two, Blake, who would you choose?
For me, it's Flaherty pretty easily. I think there's some like trends with Teoscar's game that kind of leads you to not want to make a long-term commitment to
him. Let's hope Scott's not watching. I think
Scott's on board with this.
It's
the strikeout numbers being there, a poor defender in the outfield. Like, the power is going to decline as he continues to get older, so it's just not like the best kind of player you want to give out a long-term contract to. I think he's going to get the qualifying offer from the Dodgers. Maybe they go like 2 years with him, kind of settle there.
Yeah.
But I think Flaherty should be their number one target. I mean, he's from LA. He loves pitching here. He's been great. They always need pitching.
Yeah.
If you don't extend him, you're probably going to be trading for a starting pitcher at the deadline again.
Yep.
And even if they do sign him, they might have to go do that anyway. So you can never have too much pitching. And anyways, they're going to have Juan Soto in left field, so it doesn't really matter.
There you go. I'm with you. I've been on the extend Flaherty train. Not that it's like a hot take or something like that. But yeah, what's interesting is that the Dodgers have way more pitching prospects than they have outfield prospects in the system. So I'm sort of disagreeing with the second part of this, and yet still taking Flaherty despite all of the pitching prospects. He's the type of guy. It's like, just pay the extra 12 to 15 million a year to get Flaherty instead of Big Maple or Noah Syndergaard or fill in the blank. Like just pay to get a guy who is both an innings eater and also good for a change, please. With all due respect to your guy, Big Maple, of course.
And then just pay like the extra 15 million to get Soto instead of Teoscar. Like,
look,
simple.
Trust me. I'm already talking to my Mariners buddies about, just wait till the Dodgers go after Soto and everybody will hate you guys. It's like, yeah, they probably already do. Like, it's fine. Like, spending $1 billion this offseason, like, they're like, no, this is the line. The line is not $1 billion for Ohtani and Yamamoto. The line is Soto. It's like, all right, well, fine, we'll take it.
Putting you at like 1.6 billion in the last two off seasons.
Yeah, that's it.
Plus whatever Flaherty gets.
Yeah, plus whatever Flaherty gets. And Roki Sasaki, he's on the minor league deal or whatever. So just cost cutting moves there, you know. Let's see. Scott wants to know, and I think he just wants to hear you say this out loud, Blake. So who is more effective, Walker Buehler or Bobby Miller?
I plead the fifth.
No, it's not allowed. Come on. This is a
my
question.
Constitutional rights here.
Wow. There you go. You want to talk about Coke? I mean, he can't even bring himself to say it.
It's Buehler.
There you go.
But like, it's not a high confidence level either. So
that's fine. There's not a but. It's Walker Buehler. It's not even close. And I'm not saying Walker Buehler is good. It just says more about Bobby Miller than it does about Bobby Miller. We'll say that, or for Walker Buehler. Okay, some more questions. Here's a couple fun ones. Well, this one's not fun. King Yellowman, what are the odds we don't have another starting pitcher go down for the season? Like 0%, 1% that somebody else doesn't get hurt between now and the end?
That another starting pitcher doesn't get hurt. I'm going to say like 35, 40%.
Wow, I like that. That's optimistic. It's lower for me. Christopher, can't see Grover Honeywell pitching leverage innings in the playoffs. Agreed. Should we try and get Enriquez on the playoff roster, a la 2002 K-Rod or 2023 Kerkering? Those are some pretty lofty comps. I'll say that from the get-go. But where do you stand? Like, is this a guy that the Dodgers should be giving a shot to?
I've been saying he should be on the roster already for the past 12 plus days now since September started. I don't see any reason to not give him a chance. He's the type of pitcher who can come in and make an immediate impact in the playoffs. And like, we know what we're getting with Joe Kelly, we know what we're getting with Honeywell, and we know what we're getting with Grove. Like, go try the unknown, see what's there, and if he makes an impact, awesome. If he doesn't, then you didn't lose much.
Yeah, because the issue is just the 40-man roster spot and the 26-man roster spot with guys like Joe Kelly, who you mentioned coming back. The fastball, we all know what the fastball is. There's no arguing with that. He's made his way up to Oklahoma City and has remained, I would say fairly effective. At least the performance hasn't been like the greatest thing you've ever seen in the history of the world, but it's been very, very good. 3.09 ERA at AAA, a 3.06 ERA at AA. 8 walks, 16 strikeouts, and 11 2/3. I mean, AAA is a hitter's park. A hitter's league. He plays in a bunch of hitters parks. But I mean, is there any part of that he's allowed? He's got a whip of 1.8 in 11 2/3 at Oklahoma City. Does any part of that give you pause, Blake?
I mean, yeah, I think there's always concerns with bringing up any pitcher, but like, we know what we have in Grove and Honeywell and some of the other fringe guys on the roster. Like, it's worth exploring to see what you have there. So I think it just makes sense.
Yeah.
And there is a related question. Isn't it too late to add Enriquez to the postseason roster and 40-man and all that? No, you just have to be in the organization by September to be eligible. And there's workarounds and all that you can do to get guys on the roster.
Yeah. And when is Enriquez? Is it he would have to be added this offseason, right? Because he's actually already been passed over for the Rule 5 draft. And so basically any offseason moving forward that he's not on the 40-man, he would be eligible. So part of the point of this is, well, you've got to add him to the 40-man some point this offseason anyway. So why not just do it now? Is that fair?
Yeah, like DFAing Honeywell at this point isn't going to change the outlook of your season. It's not going to change the outlook of next season. Same thing with Grove, the same thing with a few other guys. Like, they just did it with Michael Peterson and Nick Ramirez. Like, it's worth just giving him a shot and seeing what he can do.
Yeah, fair enough. Michael wants to know, why aren't you worried about Daniel Hudson? Past 12 outings, he's looked really bad. He's clearly laboring just throwing 10 pitches. He doesn't deserve to be on the playoff roster. I guess I'll ask and clarifying. Are you worried about Daniel Hudson? And if not, why not?
I think me and Scott did a bullpen video like 2 weeks ago, and I said Daniel Hudson was probably my biggest concern for the bullpen. He wasn't looking good at the time. It was right after they gave him that stretch of 9 days off, and then he came back and still wasn't good. Yeah, I mean, he looks like he's fatigued and tiring. I mean, it's understandable. I think he's 36 now. He hasn't pitched a full season. 37. He hasn't pitched a full season in 2 years. He's dealt with a lot of injuries. Like, I think it's kind of expected and natural that he's dealing with this. And yeah, it is a concern, but I think they're in a position with their bullpen right now where they don't have to rely on him. You can get by in the late innings without needing him. So it's something you can deal with.
Are you concerned about him being on a postseason roster, or just concerned about him being a leverage guy in a big postseason spot?
I probably wouldn't hate him being a middle reliever in the postseason. Like, I would not go to him in any high leverage spot, especially with Brewstar back. I just don't see any upside there. So you got Phillips, you got Kopech, you got Vesia, you got Brewstar. Like, go with those guys as your high leverage options.
Is Brewstar immediately back into that sort of high leverage realm in your estimation?
Probably. I mean, there's essentially 20 games left to figure it out. So yeah, we'll see. Yeah.
I mean, it's fair. Obviously, you're not going to take anything from the 2 appearances that we've seen from him so far. I will say the one time we saw him last, like it's almost like I'm not counting anything against him, but for me to be able to trust him in leverage, I've got to see it. And thus far, in the one time he's been back on Tuesday, it was an inning, it was 2 hits, it was no strikeouts, which is pretty much the Brewstar Gratterall experience for the people who are skeptical of the guy. And so we'll see. Yeah. Don't forget Ryan Brazier. Are you forgetting Ryan Brazier, or do you think he belongs in that leverage conversation?
If they need him, yeah, I'd be fine with it, but I still think he's best in like a 6th or 7th inning type role.
I think the Bonda thing is like nothing. Like, I think that was a guy who was actually going to be pretty consistent, like was a really safe bet to be on the postseason roster before he went and punched a hard object. So I mean, I'm not saying that's like a season ender for the Dodgers as a franchise. I'm just saying it's not nothing.
I mean, they're hopeful. That key word there, that he comes back. So we'll see. Hopefully he can come back.
Yeah. All right. All right. I like this one. TQT, rank the batters you want in the box with the game on the line. Do you think Ohtani struggles with runners in scoring position continue in October? So let's start with the first part. If the Dodgers had runners at second and third and 2 outs and they were down a run, and you could have any guy on the roster up in that spot, who's number 1 in your estimation?
I feel like my answer is somewhat going to kind of answer the second part here, because it's kind of a toss-up between Freddie Freeman and Shohei Ohtani for me. Ohtani is clearly the better hitter, and I think you should put weight into putting your best hitter up in those moments there. But Freddie Freeman's ability to put the bat on the ball, he's going to go have a really strong, consistent at bat. I think that does matter in those situations there. Ohtani is more of a strikeout guy, so while he is going to produce more at the end of the day, if you need a hit in that spot, I think Freddie Freeman might be the guy. And I know Mookie's also a popular choice there. You can throw him in there. I mean, you don't really have a wrong answer there. So some order of those 3, flip a coin.
Yeah, I'm with you. I actually had the exact same thought with Freddie Freeman. I'm curious, if we move past those 3, who's in the 4th spot in your estimation?
Teo.
Okay. I mean, you just told me everything's trending in the wrong direction. So you still got him
for a long term. I'm good with him this year. I'm good with him next year. But if you're talking 3 or 4 year deal, that's where my concern starts to come in. We might see some AJ Pollock type stuff.
Ahead of Tommy Edman, ahead of Muncy, ahead of Lux, ahead of Rojas. You've got Teo.
Teo's come through in the moments every time this year that they've needed him to, pretty much. He enjoys being in those moments. I think there is something to that. He likes being in the bright lights. He enjoys the spotlight. So yeah, I mean, I think we're kind of at a point where I don't think you hate any of the options on the starting 9, in those spots. I think you could, you're not going to pick Tommy Edman over Shohei Ohtani or Freddie Freeman, but you also don't hate having Tommy Edman in that spot there. You're not taking Miguel Rojas over any of them, but I'm probably taking Miguel Rojas over every other 7th or 8th hitter in the league. Gavin Lux has been phenomenal in those spots all year, even while he was struggling. And now he's kind of actually picked it up. I don't think they really have a clear weakness. It might be Will Smith, which is funny to talk about. And even he has shown a little more signs of life recently. Yeah,
no, I'm with you. I mean, that's the reason I've been saying the offense is going to be the live or die piece of this team. And it's because of exactly that. I mean, as long as the Kevin Kiermaier, as long as he's not in one of those spots because of defensive reasons, which defensively would add value, I would feel terrible about him being in any of these spots. But I'm with you on Rojas. I'm with you on Gavin Lux. I'm with you on Tommy Edman. We're ranging between guys I don't hate or guys I actually like. And I would honestly put most of the guys we just mentioned in I like that guy in that spot. I wouldn't pick them, to your point, over Freeman or Ohtani or Betts, but Max Muncy, Tommy Edman, Will Smith, Gavin Lux, to your point, even when he was terrible, was somehow hitting 300 with runners in scoring position. I mean, Miguel Rojas, a guy that I've been low on for most of the season, most of last season, he continues to hit, continues to put the bat on the ball. He's converted me as it relates to this season. So I'm probably with you on Teoscar. And I want to ask you, actually, because as soon as you mentioned that, it reminded me, I got to interview Dalton Rushing on our channel last weekend, and the stat that he said he cares the most about as a hitter is RBIs, which Matt Moreno somewhere smiled when he heard that. But it made, Dalton's not a dumb guy, and he's been highly successful. And there's some part of that I'm curious if, when you say Teoscar Hernandez, he always comes up in those spots and seems to be successful. Is there any part of you that thinks RBI should be that important of a stat in the mind of a guy like Dalton Rushing, or is it just sort of nonsense?
I think it's a good mental state for a hitter to have.
Which, to be clear, is kind of how he presented it. Was mentally, this is where I'm at.
You obviously want the guy to go up there and want to drive in runs instead of just focusing on hitting a home run or striking out. I think when you're evaluating a player, like objectively, I don't think you want to consider that at all. Like
Yeah.
a lot of that has to do with lineup construction and where they're hitting and who's around them. Like the one that always comes to mind for me is Albert Pujols with the Angels. I think it was his final full year there. He drove in 100 runs, but he was one of the worst hitters in baseball, and that was because he was hitting behind Mike Trout. So like he was obviously going to have more opportunities to drive in runs. So I think it's a good mindset for a hitter to be focused on driving in runs and want to produce in those spots.
Yeah.
But like if we're evaluating them as a player, like just don't consider it at all.
Yeah, and that's kind of what he said was like, I'm going up with the mentality of the number one job for me is to drive in runs. And I think there's sort of something to be said about, like we mentioned, Freddie Freeman is the guy that we might trust more than Ohtani in that spot. And part of it is because I think Freddie Freeman seems to be the type of player who has different approaches in different situations. It's not one speed all the time, so to speak. Like he has 4 or 5 pitches, clubs in his bag, if you want to use a golf analogy, to, hey, second and third with 2 outs. Like we don't need a double in this spot. We don't need a home run. We just need a single. Okay, I can adjust a little bit. That's kind of what I heard in rushing, rather than like, well, I'm just going to swing as hard as I can every single time I'm in the box and we'll just kind of see what happens. So I just thought it was it was just an interesting response from rushing, because I was like, whoa, like here's a guy that, on base percentage, slugging, all that kind of thing, but he's like RBIs. And I'm like, he almost had me convinced, Blake, that I should take RBIs more seriously. He almost had me.
I mean, yeah, I think there's kind of a split in baseball where like front offices don't want to evaluate it, but the players and coaches still care about it. And a lot of the younger players tend to not care about it as much, whereas older players do.
Yeah.
I think there's positives and negatives for both sides of that debate. Like, I'm never going to say X player is better than Y player because he had more RBIs, but I think there is something to that mental state there of trying to focus on driving runs and making adjustments when you're at the plate.
Yeah, I'm with you. Okay, I'm going to put a question up here, Blake, that has the potential to get us to not necessarily say something stupid, but maybe not say something that we definitely should. Rod wants to know who is the best Dodger at each position since you have been following the team. So there is a guarantee for every single person in here that you or I, in one of the 10 positions, I suppose, we're going to forget somebody stupid here. But we're going to do this rapid fire, and this seems like a good idea at the 49-minute mark with 1,800 people watching live at 10 p.m. on a Thursday. So let's just do it. Let's start at first base. This is since you've been following, which, to be clear for me, I would say is early to mid 90s. You're younger than me. So are we saying 2000? Are we late 90s? Where are we at?
For me, it was like the 2008 Dodgers were the first team I really started following.
Okay, so 2008 for him. For me, you're going back to the Nomo, Raul Mondesi, Mike Piazza days for some context. So first base to me is maybe the easiest position. It's Freddie Freeman. And I don't think it's all that close.
Yeah, I agree there. There's no other real competition there.
Yeah. Adrian Gonzalez, like if we're going career, was a very, very, very good player. Freddie Freeman's a Hall of Famer. Second base, who you got at second base? It's a tough one.
Yeah. I'm sure I'm going to forget. Second base, it seems like they've never really had a legit player there, like Mark Ellis, D. Gordon. Blake DeWitt was there for a bit.
Howie Kendrick,
Orlando Hudson. I think Jeff Kent was still around on the team when I started.
I was afraid you were going to say that.
So,
you couldn't pay me. There's not a dollar number that someone could put in a super chat to get me to say Jeff Kent. There's not. It's not going to happen. I'm just saying it.
To answer the question honestly, I think it is Jeff Kent for me.
There is nothing more on brand, Blake. Like there is no doubt in my mind that you would have loved Jeff Kent. Like just your personality type, the sort of the trolling but not trolling thing. Everybody hates Jeff Kent. You loving Jeff Kent. Absolutely.
I think I met him at like a Macy's event where it was spend $50 or something and you can meet him and get an autograph. So yeah, I'm pretty sure I have a Jeff Kent autographed baseball somewhere.
Someone wants to know, does Mookie Betts count at second base?
I'm going to say no, because he hasn't ever like played a full season there.
Yeah, Fair.
Like, we didn't even think of him when it came to mind. Like, he's a right
Logan
fielder.
Forsythe, Chase Utley. I mean, if we're going career, Chase Utley is the guy. When he was on the Dodgers, it wasn't great.
Yeah, I think you could make that case for Jeff Kent, though, a little bit, too. If we're talking
I
about, like,
just don't like Jeff Kent. It has nothing to do with if he's good or not. I just don't like him. He was a giant.
well, I guess it matters if we're talking about, like, career best player, like,
Yeah.
or best when they were with the Dodgers.
Yeah. Best
So
when they're
that
with the
kind of-
Dodgers. That's what we're going to go with.
It might be Orlando Hudson then.
There
He
you
had-
I like that. Let's go
he
with
had
the
some good
O-Dog,
years.
baby.
I was
Great
there
pull.
when he hit for the cycle on opening day, so
Great pull. Great pull. Yeah, and Mookie Betts we're not putting as a second baseman. That's fantastic. And some of you are older than us. So Steve Garvey, those types of guys, if you were around for them, great. Shortstop is going to take Blake as long as it takes him to get these 12 letters out of his mouth. So go ahead.
Hanley Ramirez.
Well, hey, now you're speaking my language, Blake.
I think it's a closer toss-up with Hanley and Seager
Really?
than like Hanley in 2013. Like,
We got
he
a
was
Trey
on
Turner
another
nomination
level.
here too.
Trey was really good. I think he's probably pretty underrated. I'm going Seager here just because,
Obviously.
like,
I can't
You
believe
have
you're
to.
even hemming and
But-
hawing. I'm impressed.
Hanley was like a 200 weighted
Look.
runs created plus guy in 2013. Like,
The man is right there on this shelf, right here. I freaking love Hanley Ramirez. You don't need to. That guy at his peak, hot streak Hanley Ramirez was like Manny Ramirez level hot streak. But I think it's
Han-
Corey Seager.
Hanley was my Corey Seager before Corey Seager joined the team. Like, I saw Hanley play for the Florida Marlins. I got his jersey there, like their pinstriped ones, number 2. I think that was like 2008 or 2009 or something. And then when he came to the Dodgers, I got his jersey one Christmas. So, like, Hanley was one of my guys.
I loved it. I love Hanley Ramirez. Third base, Juan Uribe, and who's second on that list?
I mean, I think Muncie's number 1. but-
Okay. Well, there's one other guy, Justin
but
Turner.
Justin Turner. Yeah,
It's a tough one. This I think is maybe the toughest.
Muncie and Turner might be toss up here. Turner because he has like the accolades more so. I mean,
Oh well, Beltre. Beltre's a good answer. Beltre's my answer, but that was pre you.
yeah, I'm going Turner.
Okay. I think Turner would be higher than Muncie. I think that's a close one, but I'm going Adrian Beltre. That's a great out. Thank you to who reminded me of that one. Let's see. Right field, easy. Mookie Betts.
Oh, I was going with Xavier Paul.
Yeah. What's his Billy McKinney? Maybe
Yeah,
third on the list.
he might be.
Honorable mention, my guy Raul Mondesi.
Or Josh Reddick.
Yeah. Yep. Puig. Yeah, Puig, dang. But it's Mookie.
Yeah.
Center field, easy.
Matt Kemp.
Oh. Okay, fair. I was gonna say Cody Bellinger, but I think one guy has an MVP, the other guy doesn't.
Yeah, Matt Kemp has his rightful MVP.
That's a tough one, actually. Matt Kemp. I wonder if you did like a wins above replacement comparison of those two guys in for the Dodgers.
I think Kemp would be higher by a good amount. Cody Bellinger had 2 of his 5 years where he was pretty bad, and he had the 2020 season where they didn't play much. So I think Kemp is easily taking that one.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Okay, we'll go Kemp in center field. I'm good.
We didn't even mention Andre Ethier in right field. Like that, I know he's not overtaking Mookie, but like not getting an honorable mention there. Like they've been kind of deep in right field there.
Yeah, no, I'm good. I mean, I love Andre Ethier. He's on it. He's on this shelf over here, not on this shelf back here. I mean, I'm not anti Andre Ethier. So there we go. I'm trying to look up some of the wins above replacement stuff just because I find it to be interesting. Oh, what the heck? We want player stats here, folks. All right.
Sean Green, another option people are throwing out there.
Love Sean Green. Gary Sheffield, another guy, although we haven't gotten to left field yet, so maybe I should have kept that one in the bag.
Before my time.
Kemp 27 wins above replacement as a Dodger. Cody Bellinger 17. So 500 extra games for Matt Kemp, but that counts. So left field. Who do you want in left field?
Manny Ramirez.
I love that. Another guy that's on this shelf right here. This is the Puig, Hanley Ramirez, Manny Ramirez shelf. Find me a better shelf than that shelf right there, Blake. That's just peak vibes right there. Oh, yeah, there it is. The
Joey
disrespect.
I think Manny was like the first player that really got me into baseball there. So him, like Matt Kemp, Hanley, as I name, like those were the guys that I grew up watching that were great and made me love the game.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. I love Manny Ramirez. As far as just the guy that did the things that he did. He's great. He's great. Catcher.
I mean, it's Will Smith, but Russell Martin was really great for the team.
His nickname for me in high school was Russell Left on Base Martin. That guy, I mean, there's probably no statistics to justify my feelings, but yeah, it's got to be. I mean, if you go back for somebody like me, Piazza, you could go back to Piazza and feel justified in that. But pre your time,
Rod Barajas, like 2009 cleanup hitting catcher, might have been 2010 or 11 or something around those years.
Those are the years I just try and remind people that they exist. Okay, we'll just rapid fire. Starting pitcher, it's obviously Kershaw. Closing pitcher, it's obviously Gagne for me. Kenley Jansen for you, I imagine.
Yeah.
So there you go.
What if we go lefty and righty pitcher? Because I think if you add for starting pitcher, if we go lefty and righty, because like then for me you're putting in Greinke and Yamamoto could be in there. I know he's young, but he's a dude.
I mean, Ohtani, are we just going to put Ohtani in that category? He hasn't technically pitched yet, but
Ohtani's already locked into our DH spot.
Yeah. Second in wins above replacement among Dodger pitchers since 1998. This is hilarious. Kershaw's at 76.5. The next guy's at 23.8. Kevin Brown.
We got a lot of Koufaxes, but I don't think either of us were alive or paying attention for that.
Definitely not alive or paying attention. I mean, Walker Buehler probably as a righty belongs in this conversation, right? Like I know we're sort of negatively biased by what we've seen this year, but if you're talking about over the course of a career, I mean, like Walker Buehler has more wins above replacement as a Dodger than Greinke does.
Yeah. But I think Greinke was better.
30 more starts, and we're only talking about like 2 wins above replacement. So Greinke on a per season basis. I think both of those guys you could kind of justify. Hideo Nomo is a fair one. I see that one in the chat. That's a good one. Brad Penny, maybe.
Jeff Weaver.
Oh my God, Jeff Weaver.
They had Maddox on their team, didn't they? For like a minute.
That's true. Jason Schmidt too, but he sucked. So yeah, Maddox was technically there. He wasn't terrible. We'd take Greg Maddux. I bet you Greg Maddux could get us a few innings right now. And again, I see people forgot about Fernando. The question was, since you've been following the team, me, early mid-90s, Blake, 16 years ago. So Fernando was not a part of that conversation. But yeah, they had some dudes over the years. I think Greinke versus Buehler, I think would be the interesting conversation if you're going last like 30 years, right-handed pitcher. And part of this is just like reminder of what a dearth of talent we had, like pre 2008, basically. That's convenient of you, Blake. I guess it wasn't. It was what 2013 is when the Dodgers became really good. Was it 12 somewhere in there?
Yeah. I suffered through the 2010, 11, 12 years there.
It's good. You didn't suffer through 89 through like 2008, but you know.
No, the 2008 and 2009. I think I was at each of the I went to at least one game in each of those years where they played the Phillies and lost.
Yeah.
I think I saw Cole Hamels pitch for the Phillies in one of those. It might have been versus
Dodger legend. We didn't mention Cole Hamels. Did you want to include him in this conversation?
I think we can.
Major league. Does he have to make a major league appearance, or does a tryout count?
I think a major league appearance there.
Yeah. Okay.
How about a utility bench guy, like never a starter, but like the Jay Hair role?
Did you say the Jay Hay role?
Jay Hair. Jerry Hairston.
Hair. I mean,
because Jerry Hairston would be putting himself in like all these positions there.
Yeah, I'm going to plead the fifth on that one. That if we allowed you to sort of do it earlier, I'm going to leave that one there. Utility guy. That's a great question. I'm looking at my bobbleheads to see if I've missed anybody.
Chris Taylor.
Yeah, I mean, look, he's a great one. He was, if we're going like purely not just like who's the best player that we haven't put out there yet, I think Chris Taylor's a great one.
I know they weren't they're not answers for this question, but the Aaron Miles, Jamie Carroll combo, that was a fun one. Two utility guys there. They were fun.
What part of Aaron Miles and who? Who's the other guy?
Jamie Carroll.
Jamie Carroll. What part of that was fun? Oh, there you go. David Freese, great answer.
I mean,
Albert Pujols. Can I have Albert Pujols as my off the bench utility guy?
He's only playing first base for you, but sure.
They threw him in the outfield one time, didn't they?
Did they?
I feel like they did.
I don't think they would have done that.
That would have been awesome. I hope they did.
I think Aegon played the outfield a bit in his career.
I feel like Adrian Gonzalez is a guy that like isn't going to get appreciated enough. Like he was like just above average, very good for like a considerable amount of time. Not to mention being a part of all. This is like sort of a hot take. What it did for the vibes among Dodgers fans, the trade that he was a part of, will not compare to like the Mookie Betts trade. But as a Dodgers fan, I'm not sure any move in history has ever changed my mood about the team more than the move to go get him, Josh Beckett, Carl Crawford, and Nick Punto. So, I mean, there's something to be said. There's something to be said about that guy.
Do you remember all the players that went back in that deal?
Ruby De La Rosa, Webster.
Yeah.
And
James Loney.
Oh, James.
I think Ivan De Jesus went back in that.
Okay. I don't know. I can't believe I remember those two pitchers.
Ruby De La Rosa was one of the guys who, like, he had this stuff, and I kept believing in him, but he never put it together.
Pujols sadly did not play any outfield for the Dodgers. He played 113 games in the outfield in 2003, though. So okay. I was only 18 years off. Jerry Sands. Jeez Louise. We got some great David Price. Yeah, shout out to David Price as well for being part of the Mookie trade. All right, we got a couple good food questions in here, and then we'll close.
We didn't pick a manager either.
Well, I mean, they have the winningest manager, the greatest win-loss record in Major League history. So
I mean, some people might not pick Dave. You could get Joe Torre, Don Mattingly.
Yeah, you could. Jim Tracy's another name that theoretically could be chosen. Yeah, theoretically, these are all choices. Walter Alston. Jeff is smoking something. Look, I'm just saying, literally, if you go search greatest winning percentage in Major League history for managers, then the guy with the number one next to him is Dave Roberts. All I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. El Shiva wants to know, what's your favorite ice cream flavor, Blake?
Peanut butter chocolate.
All right. Is that like a Baskin Robbins, or just like you'll just, if that exists at any ice cream shop?
Baskin Robbins, but I'll get it other places too. At Cold Stone, I like the birthday cake remix one they have.
I hate birthday cake flavored anything.
Oh, it's okay.
Yeah. It's just me. Cold Stone sweet cream with a little brownie mixed in. Sign me up for that. Mint chip if we're at it. I introduced my girls to Baskin Robbins last week. The positive day. Talked my youngest daughter into getting daiquiri ice, which was one of my favorites as a kid. She loved it.
No idea what that is.
Well, I don't even know how to describe it. It's like a lime sherbet, basically. Sort of. That's probably not a great explanation. It's like a bluish color. It's very good. And then there's like a rainbow sherbet, and then there was this one next to it that was blue raspberry, green apple, and like fruit punch. My oldest got that. That looked and tasted delicious because I required a bite of everything. And then my middle got mint chip. So it was a great day in the Spiegel household. History Man wants to know, is a hot dog a sandwich? No, it's not. I can't give you a justified answer as to why that is, but I'm going no. You say no also, Blake?
No, I'm saying you're wrong.
Okay. Because
it's a sandwich.
Bread with meat in the middle.
Meat or meat substitute between bread.
Have I asked you the condiment question if you could only keep one condiment? Did you say cane sauce? I can't remember.
I think I said ranch.
Okay. I had a guy argue with me the other day, like for 45 minutes, and he's like, I would pick mayo. And I was like, well, that's okay. Like, that wouldn't be my choice. And he's like, because then I could just make everything. I could just make ranch with my mayo, and I could make Chipotle mayo. That's what I said. But you know what I thought, Blake? I'm going to be honest. You know what I thought? I was like, I feel like I would get into this argument with Blake. I feel like this is the type of thing that Blake
probably would. It probably is, but it's cheating. Like, you could go break that down to like water or something too. Then
no, I know. No, trust me. We were both like, you're crazy. I've asked this to 15 people. 14 had no issues. The problem is you. It's not the question. But I did have a thought. I was like, I could see Blake. I could see Blake dying on that hill.
That is one of the ridiculous hills I would die on.
Hawaiian Kira wants to know. I asked last night. It's Game 7 of the World Series. The bullpen is taxed and gassed. It's the 9th inning. Do you put Ohtani on the mound? Your answer, Blake, is
No.
100% yes. 100%.
Like, where's he at in his rehab? What's been going on here? Like, there's questions.
Can I ask you a question? If Ohtani was going to miss the next 2 seasons as a pitcher, but you could put him into a game and the Dodgers would win the World Series, would you do it?
Yes, but I think if he got hurt, it wouldn't be 2 seasons. I think it'd be the rest of his pitching career.
Okay, if he never pitched again for the rest of his life, but they won the World Series this year, would you do it?
I don't think so.
Oh, in a heartbeat, I would. In a heartbeat.
I
One
think-
World Series, I'm in.
I think they get more than that in the next 10 years.
It's possible. I like the optimism. I'm just saying this is an absolutely impossible scenario. They will never be able to guarantee. I just think in this scenario, Game 7 of the World Series, and you need 1 out, guys on base. Ohtani is technically there and available. I could see it happening, and I wouldn't be mad. I would take my chances and say, how many times are you going to get back here? I don't think there's a scenario where it's a career ender. Maybe I'm being like naive about that, but that would be my answer.
Yeah, I just don't really see them risking it, especially because you don't know what you're getting out of Ohtani. Like, it's one thing to say if you know for a fact he's going to come back and be effective as a pitcher, but he hasn't gone on rehab assignments. He's probably not going on any rehab assignments. He's just been throwing bullpen sessions, and I don't think that's really going to change by now. So, like, you're putting his health at risk for a maybe he's effective. I just don't really see it.
Yeah, fair. David wants to know, he sent us a picture of 2 foods. There was a garlic crostini and a caprese salad. Which of those 2 would Blake eat?
Can you translate this to English for me?
You don't know what a caprese salad is?
I thought it's caprese.
I mean, I'm sure there's some tomato situations
I
here.
still don't know what's in it, though.
It's just mozzarella cheese and tomato, basically. Sometimes there's like olive oil and vinegar as well involved.
I don't like tomato. So
basil. There's basil. Yeah. A garlic crostini is basically just like garlic bread.
Well, that's great.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, no tomato.
Yeah. No tomato. You're just out on tomatoes.
No tomato.
I think caprese is just absolutely elite. 10 out of 10. I would eat both of these. So I want both. I believe Matt said he's a non-tomato guy or something. He just wants the garlic caprese. So that's fine. There you go. Tomato, basil, mozzarella, olive oil, vinegar, salt, pepper. There you go.
I've had this garlic crostini thing before. It's good.
Yeah, it's just garlic bread, basically, right?
Like really crunchy.
Yeah.
It's like a garlic bread chip.
Someone says Blake likes Hawaiian bread.
I do. I love Hawaiian bread. It's so good.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. There's nothing wrong with that. Jonathan had this question. How long will Will catch? How long do you think he can? When will he revert to the backup role? I don't think he's going to be a backup anytime soon. I think he's going to be the first baseman after Freddie Freeman would be my guess.
Probably. Well, that's what, 2-3 years for Freeman?
I think it's 3 more after this.
Yeah.
So that would be my guess, is whenever Freddie Freeman is gone, Will Smith becomes the first baseman, would be my answer.
Probably. Depends what they're doing with rushing also at the time.
Freddie Freeman has 3 more years. Well, Dalton Rushing's going to be playing center field by then. He's going to be the everyday center fielder by the time we get to that point. So yeah, give me Will Smith, everyday catcher through the 2027 season, transitions to first base in 2028. So that's my answer. Somebody wants to know, how do you eat chicken parm without tomato sauce? You like tomato sauce, you just don't like tomatoes.
Yeah. I'll eat ketchup, I'll eat tomato sauce, but like a whole tomato, no chance there.
Yeah, because you're going no tomatoes on any sandwich, nothing.
Yeah. I also prefer a chicken parm with Alfredo sauce.
I love
Very good. Very good.
I was like secretly hoping we were going to get to that. And it's like, I mean, on one hand, it sounds good. I'm not anti it. I just love that your favorite food is chicken parmesan. And then you're like,
not my favorite food.
What's your favorite food?
I like Mexican food the best.
Like tacos?
Tacos, burritos, nachos,
Like if you had to pick one
enchiladas,
food, like a certain type of meat, tacos or a burrito or something. I would somebody in the chat tell me I'm wrong. I had you penciled in as chicken parmesan favorite food.
No, that just became the meme because I had it at IHOP.
Okay. Yes, that's true. I do remember that. But you also ordered, I've been with you when you ordered chicken parm. Although, to be fair, maybe there wasn't a burrito on the menu. So is it burrito or tacos?
Probably a burrito.
Okay. And what are we going? Carne asada?
Chicken. Come on.
Chicken. Yeah, duh. Sorry. That was a dumb question. Right. I mean, walk me through it. Like you're at Qdoba or Chipotle. What's
What
going
is
in there?
Qdoba?
Did you say what's Qdoba?
I've never heard of it.
Really? No, it's basically Chipotle. It's the same thing.
Okay.
Yeah. Somebody just got introduced to the fact that you ordered chicken parmesan IHOP, by the way, which is fantastic. That's a legendary moment in the history of this show. So give me the Blake order because there's no pico de gallo.
Like Chipotle?
Yeah, sure.
That's
Chipotle.
what we're going. I do. Usually I get the burrito bowl there,
Okay.
but if I'm going with a burrito, I'm going brown rice, pinto beans, guacamole, corn, cheese, sour cream, and chicken.
All right. We just need a little pico de gallo in there. Need a little something red. So there's got to be something red in there. No salsa?
I did not have. No. Getting the guacamole and sour cream. We're good.
And corn. All right. Fair enough.
The corn is like a salsa. It's a corn salsa, they call it. So
it's true. That's true. Somebody said, I love how random and gas these streams get towards the end. Yep. Welcome to DodgerHeads. After the hour 5 mark, we get some food questions. Aaron says that is the whitest Mexican food he's ever heard of.
Chipotle.
There you go. Yeah, there you go. I love it. All right. Well, on that note, everybody, that'll do it for us. Hey, we appreciate you joining us. Over 2,000 people in here on an off day. Thank you. Thank you to the Thursday night football game for A, being terrible, and B, getting over quickly so that we could do the show afterwards with no conflicts. That is Blake Williams. I am Jeff Spiegel. As always, we've got lots of live content here on the DodgerHeads show, Dodger Blue 1958 channel. I mentioned it earlier, some busy schedules over the next few weeks on our side. So if you're used to seeing certain people on certain nights, it's going to be a little mixed up, mostly on my end because I've got some work stuff going on. But we're still going to be here. Matt's going to be here tomorrow night. Daniel and I are going to be recording in the morning, a little Braves series preview. And oh, by the way, we didn't get to any of the Twitter questions. So let me throw a couple of those at you real quick, Blake, because this is my bad. We wouldn't ask for them. And I'm just remembering now. The first one was actually one that made me laugh. They were talking about the schedule. Will said, just notice this. Not only are the Dodgers going to Atlanta to play Atlanta for 4, then Miami, then they fly all the way across the country to play the Rockies at home the next day. Who signs off on this kind of travel at the end of the season? Any thoughts?
Dave Roberts, blame him.
Yeah,
it's all the other blame.
That's what I heard. I heard he requested it. He wants to challenge the team. And then Mendoza Line said, what are the odds this team mercifully lets Landon Knack be the number 4 starter, assuming everyone except for Stone gets healthy? So that would be Flaherty, Yamamoto, and Glasnow 1, 2, and 3 with Landon Knack the number 4. Do you think that's give me a number percentage chance?
Going like 15 to 20.
Oh.
And it's only that high because Dave keeps saying like performance matters. It's going to be performance based. So I don't know.
Because you're just banking on they're just going to default to Walker Buehler or Clayton Kershaw. Is that kind of like, it's not what you would do, but is that kind of what you think the most likely scenario is?
I think so. And I think they'd also go bullpen game over Knack.
Okay. He also wants to know your thoughts on Tommy Madman as a nickname for Tommy Edman.
I'm out. He doesn't give those vibes.
Okay, there you go. Higher or lower than Beltober on your nicknames ranking list?
Beltober is kind of funny.
Wow, you're just sucking up to the boss now. I love it. I love it.
I think Jocktober is still the best one out of those. I think when the Rockies did Rocktober, I think that was awesome. It worked so great.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I gave a Tober nickname for someone earlier this year. I forget who it was now.
Yeah, I don't know. But Beltober, Matt Moreno somewhere is still pounding the table.
I said Mooktober.
Yeah, that there's something there. Mocktober, Mook, yeah, Mooktober. I could see it. It's higher than Beltober for me. So if Matt's still watching at this point in the show, apologies on that front. All right, That'll do it for us, everybody. Thank you again for watching. Make sure you subscribe, ring the notification bell. You can find Blake at by Blake Williams on social media. Go ahead, find us Apple, Spotify, Google if you're a podcast person. And if you're not, go ahead, subscribe. Subscribe over there, rate and review. We'd greatly appreciate that as well. Enjoy the rest of your night, everyone. As always, go Dodgers.